All right, and so we are on.
Yeah.
I've got no
Here
idea
we
how
are.
to do. I have no idea how to do this introduction, so we're just going to keep it.
No, I don't know how to do this introduction either, so we'll just say that it's been done.
Yes. Anyway, Rolex. Like the
Yes.
most cheesy way to actually start a conversation. Like,
Yeah.
okay, Rolex. Now, what about it?
What you've got an issue with them?
Yes, I mean it's not because this for all of you viewers and listeners. In order to like put it into some sort of a perspective, because I feel like that's a little bit important, is that this podcast is completely unscripted in a sense, because the only thing we talked about it over messages for like about 10 of that bigger messages, sort of trying to explain what we think to each other, and then we're like, should we make a podcast? Yes. So we just kind of dropped it in there, and the issue is. I think my issue is not with Rolex exactly, and I told you that as well. My issue is not with Rolex. It's what we made of Rolex, in a sense. It's like not that Rolex even marketing and PR, but what we as customers and we as watch, I will say it in quotes right now, enthusiasts, because I think they're not watch enthusiasts, they're Rolex enthusiasts, made out of Rolex.
Yeah, we've created a monster. That's what we've done. And the fact that the marketing department for these big brands, like such as Rolex, being the one that you've mentioned previously, they've allowed us to basically give nicknames and have strange relationships with like the naming of watches and the naming of other luxury goods. The examples that we were talking about the other day being, for example, the Starbucks, the 126610 LV. Nobody remembers the reference numbers of watches unless you're quite deep into the hobby, for example. And having that barrier to entry being, how do I even talk about this thing when you can't even read the name? Longines are terrible for it. Longines reference numbers are about, I couldn't even tell you, they're about 17 characters long.
And then you just have a numerous amount of numerals, and you're just looking at
it. It's a phone number afterwards. You're like, what on earth is this? It's like, how am I meant to remember that?
But I don't even know if my genuine problem lies with the fact that we have that. I mean, I don't have a problem with nicknaming a watch. I genuinely actually don't really have a problem with it. I'm happy to call it a Pepsi, a Batman, or whatever, even though if sometimes these names don't make any sense to me. Like,
Sprite doesn't have the colours of a Sprite tin, which is quite confusing, but
and
to each their own.
Like, why?
What's wrong with Starbucks?
But there's
Black
green.
And green.
But like, out of that, like...
Coffee's black.
I mean, that makes sense. It depends. If you're having a Frappuccino, it's not exactly black, is it?
Fair point.
But like, I'm okay with that. But I feel like at certain points, something shifted to the moment when we started to perceive Rolex as this ultimate big boy, bat boy, end luxury type of thing. Almost pushing aside, first of all, other brands that can pretty much fill that gap and fill that void, because I know we're talking about high-end luxury goods, but I don't remember last time I saw a person who came up to me and said, well, I've bought this day date for me as a graduation gift. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's graduation. It's not promotion to being a top manager, mate. Like, it doesn't feel very, I don't want to say substantial, but it doesn't feel like it correlates and corresponds with an actual achievement, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but is it more that Rolex has just kind of got itself into the area of success? It's almost a beacon of success more than anything else. So you'd wear it to say that you have achieved something, not that the journey is important anymore. So back in the day, we were talking about tool watches when we had the Explorers, and we had the Everest expeditions, all that sort of things. People would get a purpose-made tool for that expedition. Whereas now we've moved on to more of a consumery type society where we've already achieved the thing, now we get the reward. We don't buy something that we would keep because it's gone through the journey, we'd buy it as a treat after the journey. Maybe it's just our relationship with like watches in themselves as items has changed. So we have a slightly less, I don't know, slightly less experience-based bond, but more monetary-based bond with them. So we're more inclined to give them nicknames and treat them differently because of that. Interesting train of thought.
It's an interesting trail of thought, but also another thing that kind of comes to my mind as well. I know this sounds slightly, I'd say that sounds slightly whiny out of me. I can get behind that, but I also feel like the aftermarket had a huge role in that sort of narrative, because whenever we talk about watches as investments, we usually say that to everyone: do not buy watches as investments, because 80% of your collection, you won't be able to gain your money back.
Yeah.
Like if you're not buying a Patek, which you can then flip, or a Rolex, usually you won't be able to get your money back. And with Rolex, I get that idea that if you're getting yourself the graduation gift, you're getting yourself the gift for a top promotion or something like that, you're putting your money into some sort of a very nice enclosed investment, right? Which makes sense. But then as a result, you're sort of undermining, at least in my eyes, you're undermining the fact that I can get myself the, let's say, my beloved Longines, or someone's beloved Tudor, or someone's beloved, my beloved as well, Cartier, or anything, even a Breitling. Like, you just get yourself that gift, and it's still that big boy watch. It doesn't take anything away from it. But now we've sort of stuck in this bubble that if I want this to be quote unquote special, then I have to get myself a Rolex, which I don't feel like it is the point.
No, I agree. I think it's more of a societal thing that we've associated Rolex with these kind of landmark achievements. Whether it's just good marketing or lack of good marketing from other brands is another explanation. You don't see any brand pushing as hard on marketing as Rolex, for better or for worse. Omega are pushing pretty hard with the James Bond affiliation, and that's doing incredibly well. They've done really well with the Moonswatch collaboration. However you want to view it, the sale of Moonwatches, not Moonswatches, Moonwatches increased substantially. Since they've introduced the Moonswatch range, and it's built up hype for the watch community in general, which is fantastic news. So Rolex's marketing is definitely kind of directed towards a certain consumer group. So, but then again, everyone in the luxury goods market's doing the same thing, but what makes Rolex better at it than others?
I mean, certainly, and this is my sort of my only genuine, like, personal problem that I see in this, and I can't help but just not ignore. I can't ignore it in a certain way of it. Is that we subconsciously, when it comes to and then we talk about watches, we subconsciously start to push other brands that would genuinely deserve that sort of spotlight when it comes to these type of things. We just subconsciously start to push them aside a bit. Like, for example, I don't see people talking about the reissue, quote unquote, of the Rail Master from Omega. And I feel like
stunning.
It is.
I love it.
I went into the boutique that we have in here in Prague, and I just tried it on one of them, and I think that one was the without the second hand, the second sub dial. Sorry, the playing the boring one, quote unquote. But it's just
no boring one.
But exactly, it's like when you put it on the wrist, you just that it's not boring. It's brilliant. It's amazingly done. But now you can't perceive this as your sort of achievement watch, because, well, you can, but you're subconsciously pushing this sort of aside a bit, because you're like, well, if I have an achievement, I want to get myself a day-date. No, you don't.
Yeah. I think for me personally, because I know more about watches than going, oh, Rolex is the best of the best. It's not the best of the best. It's very good at what it does, but it's not the best of the best. Sorry to burst anyone's bubble. But if you want something that's better equipped in terms of what it can do, you can look at Richard Mille. If you want something that's got slightly more horological significance, arguably, you could look at Breguet. There's a million options out there. Just But knowing exactly what it is that the person wants, if you're buying it as a gift, is incredibly difficult. Like, for example, unless you've got someone that knows watches pretty well, if I was to say, walk into a jeweler's and say, look, I'm looking to buy my husband, my wife, whatever it may be, a gift, and I want it to be something very special, I have this budget, they would take you for an absolute ride. So it can be difficult, but everyone knows the brand Rolex. It's a very easy and safe thing to do. If it was like a gift that you were able to give personally and you don't know much about it, you do know the brand Rolex. You might not know of Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, even Breguet. It may not be as common knowledge as Rolex, for example. If you were to ask the common person on the street to name 3 brands, I guarantee one of them's Rolex.
Oh, definitely. Rolex, Omega, and then just probably somebody is going to swing in something like a Casio. And there you go. These
are the
3.
Good shout. Good shout.
It's going to be the 3 most popular watches. But even like from this sort of perspective, the thing is that when we talk about, for example, the Breguet, or we're talking about Richard Mille, or we're talking about all those brands that you mentioned, they don't exactly fall into the same, for example, price category, right? Which is a very important thing to mention, because you might be looking for something, and you have what we do with watches quite often is that we go, okay, we have this sort of budget, right? Sort of a budget. Now, what can I squeeze into that budget?
Yeah.
And for example, I would very much easily tell you that, okay, you want this sort of budget, you want something like that. Why not exploring something like a Bremont?
Yeah, Bremont's good stuff.
And then there's the brands start to pile up, and my biggest thing is that I'm trying to sort of wrap my head around is Rolex, for better or for worse, they don't specifically offer you a massive choice of difference when it comes to their lines. They have, of course, numerous iterations of Submariners, which is more than fair.
Yep.
But then they have the Day-Day, and the Day-Day Just or anything, which is quite relatively similar. You've got Explorers, and then you start to sort of fall off. Yeah.
You've got a chronograph case. You've got a dress watch case, being is it 1908, 1903? I can't remember.
1903, I think.
Either one of the two. You've got that case shape. You've got the chronograph case shape, which hasn't changed much, granted. You've got 2 pushers and a crown. You can't change it that much. But you've got the kind of standard sports watch case, and then you've got the diver's watch case, being your GMTs and your Submariners and whatnot. It's just minor revisions on that. Occasionally you'll have a coin edge bezel and whatnot. They've not changed it much at all. Rolex found something that worked and kept churning it out, and credit to them, people keep buying it.
It's fair. It's like, don't get me wrong, I don't want to sort of hate on it, because it works, right? It's a brilliant case. It looks brilliant. I mean, Wimbledon is something when I look at the Rolex Wimbledon, I just go, bloody hell, I would want that. I would genuinely want that. I want that. Yeah. But something that I feel we've taken away a little bit, and that's why in the beginning when I said watch enthusiasts and they turned it into Rolex enthusiasts, we've taken away the idea that a watch is very special in terms of it can tell a very certain story based on what country that comes from, what sort of field tool is that made as a purpose, because you can have a pilot's watch, a field's watch, and blah, 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 blah. And then that sort of starts piling up, right? Even when it comes to sports integrated bracelet, you can say sports integrated bracelets, and I can tell you, sure, but there's a lot of different ways how you can make it work. And you can argue that it can be an integrated bracelet, but a not sports integrated bracelet. Like, for example, this Bremont Supernova. I, for one, love that watch. And there's nothing like that on the market.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other integrated bracelets that offer something slightly different. It's a sports watch within itself, but the Tag Heuer Kyrium, I believe it is, the strange-looking integrated bracelet thing from the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, compare that to the PRX, and there gives you a pretty good scale of how different integrated bracelet watches can look. Like, one looks very different than the other. You can have sporty ones, you can have non-sporty ones. It just depends entirely on what you want. But there is a market out there for whatever it is that you want.
And that's the thing. Like, what I loved about watches in general, and that's practically actually one of the reasons I started collecting, is I love the fact that every single watch that you just look at there, you go and look for at the market, you can find something incredibly unique in terms of what story it can tell, and you can choose from those stories just based on how it created, based on how it's shaped, based on what country that comes from. Because even if Hamilton tries to name itself as a Swiss brand, it is not. Whether you love it or not,
no, it's not.
It's American, and it's just plain American.
It can be Swiss made, but it's an American brand.
Just sorry about that.
We'll concede that one. We'll concede that one.
And with that being said, I genuinely start to sometimes have that sort of feeling that Rolex, not because of their marketing, but because of our marketing to one another, we've completely sort of face washed the watch. And now it's what story does a Rolex tell me? Well,
fair point.
I don't know. I genuinely, I look at an Explorer and I go, okay, there's a story there. It's still there. Okay, Daytona, there's a story there. There's still, or the, what's it? The sea, not the sea, it's a deep sea dweller, isn't it?
Deep
that
sea
still has
dweller,
a story. Yeah, but then all the rest, like a Pepsi or GMT or anything, they're faceless watches. And that's what drives me nuts.
The problem, and I'm fortunate or unfortunate enough to be in the position of owning one. So I do have my Submariner, which is, I love it. I love it to pieces. But I do appreciate it is boring. Because everyone knows what it is. Everyone knows what they look like. If you were to ask a child to draw a wristwatch, they'd probably draw a Submariner. Let's be entirely honest. And if they didn't draw a Submariner, they'd draw a Datejust. And it's just the way it is. It's almost perfected design, and perfected design is kind of boring.
Yes, but I like
this sense it is.
Like, it's the spark that just doesn't give me going. Like, usually when you walk into that store, you go, give me that reason that I want to buy this watch. Like, like you do with Cartier. You walk into the store and they tell you, listen, we will like to do stuff that is very close to Patek Philippe, but we're not Patek Philippe, and we're fully understanding that. We do our own thing. For example, how they did with the Roadster in the 2000s, when they completely discontinued and they were like, okay, this is not working for us at all. We can't do sports. Just cut it off. But we have a tank, and we're ready to continue our heritage on that tank, and that's your reason to buy it. Give me that spark reason to buy the Submariner.
Submariner has good history, though. It does have a really good history.
It does, but it's washed off, isn't it?
It's very far from what the history came from. It's like it's generations deep down the line, and it's like saying, "Oh, but my great 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 grandfather did X, Y, and Z." It's like, yeah, that's cool, but you're 400 years in the future now, Chief. Like, that bloodline is long gone. Like, Rolex is in a similar vibe, in a similar sense. To be like, what was the first waterproof wristwatch? Correct, it was. When? 100? When? It's like, that's all well and good, but that was a long time ago, Chief. We've moved on since then.
Now,
so it's a tough one.
What you can offer, right?
Now what can you offer? Because, like, as good as it is as a dive watch, don't get me wrong, it's a fantastic dive watch. It does everything it needs to do and more. Like, look at me, I'm not going scuba diving anytime soon, but I know that if I ever did, this will do it.
Looks out and sees snow.
Yeah, exactly that. I'm in Scotland, if you haven't noticed.
What is that?
3 feet of snow in summer.
Starts diving in the snow.
Yeah, that's the closest thing it'll get. Snow instead of, well, rain, I suppose. We get a lot of that too, but that's by the by. Anyway, it's good to know that I've got the utility there if I ever do need it. I've taken it in the pool, and I've taken it for swims and things like that, and it serves its purpose for that, and great. But what can Rolex offer now, other than a nice dress watch, which is relatively new? They've put a slightly glamorized version of the chronograph movement in the new Daytonas and given it a sapphire case back. But that's nothing new. We've had display case backs on watches for years. What can you give me that's fresh?
Weirdly enough, when we start to talk about it more, and since it was unscripted, so a lot of like ideas and thoughts come into naturally. But one of the things that kind of appears in my head is that I see from my point of view, there's a very similar situation going on with Tissot, as right now they're just kind of gripping the PRX and they're just like, just kind of shaking
it for all it's worth.
Yeah, and just like, putting it in front of everybody's face and just going, we've got the PRX. And then you're like, sure, but Tissot has way more
cool.
way more stuff to offer, by the way. But, okay, if you want to do the PRX, sure. But what they've been doing as of late, and they've done it, from what I recall, already the second time in the last, a year, perhaps, maybe 2, is that they have taken something that they have been doing very well previously, and they've reissued the same thing. Something like Longines Jeans have been doing as well. For example, since we've been talking the heritage, here we go, the Longines Legend Diver. They've basically taken exactly the same thing, haven't basically even tweaked it, and then reissued. Nope. Now they've been tweaking it, but still.
Yeah, they made it, it's a couple of millimeters smaller across the case, and they've changed the dial, a couple of dials.
And the hands have been changed as well, slightly.
The hands have been changed, yeah.
Especially the second one.
I will say, coming from someone that's generally like 38mm case size to 40mm case size, I do prefer the larger Longines because it is a diver. It should have that tiny little bit of extra legibility. There is a reason for having it. Same with pilot's watches.
Funny enough, since it's in a bracelet, I don't feel like it was such a big issue because of that bracelet.
The bracelet is nice.
It's very nice, but
it is nice.
We're diverting. I feel like one of the things that I would love to see from Rolex personally is trying to get to all the old stuff that they've been doing, the Cellinis, the Midas, the everything, and kind of trying to get a new twist on those things. Like the dress watch they've made, it's nice enough.
Yeah.
But what about going the same route as everybody else and going, okay, so we had the Cellini, it was brilliant. So here is a new modern looking Cellini, and you're like, wow, that is brilliant. And now instead of it, we're just getting the same Submariner all and over again. Yeah.
The Cellini is an odd one, though. The Cellini was never a good seller. Like, being entirely honest, it used to be the watch that you would just see in display windows and go, oh, that looks really nice. Let's see what they have inside. So it was never designed to be the hot topic. It was never designed to be the, if air quotes, Tiffany dialed Oyster Perpetual 36 that was like the one that everyone wanted and everyone craved. But I would like to see it come back in some form. I think that they can do something. It's like what Omega do with the Speedmaster, and they release 17,000 different variations. I don't want to see that from the Cellini. I want it to be a bit nicer, totally redefined and reimagined in the same way that the Milgauss was when it came back the second time round, not like from the original kind of 80s, 90s version to the one that we got recently. I would like that type of rework, not the Air King version where they added crown guards, not that kind of version.
No. And, I feel like in the end of the day, this sort of sums it up for me, is that somehow because we now live a lot of our lives on the internet, and that is that's fair to say, because we all got our phones, we all got our laptops and computers and whatnot. Yep. So we see people constantly and we consume that content from there. And given the whole situation, it almost feels like to me that we have Rolex PR team and Rolex marketing team just laying back like that and just going, the general public is going to do all have for fun. Us. Yeah, just have fun. We don't need to do a single thing. And I don't know. I don't feel like we as a community did a really good job at it, really. I really don't.
I think they work as hard as an Olympic lifeguard, in all honesty, because they do nothing. To be fair, they probably do a lot of hard work to make sure that everything works according to plan, and there's probably psychoanalytic and crazy stuff going on to make sure that we all abide by Rolex's rules and whatnot. But it's not even just them. We've got other companies kind of encouraging us to just self-promote them. You've got companies giving their own products nicknames, and everyone's trying to get this kind of hype that Rolex had kind of done years ago. They already set all this stuff up in stone before everyone else has kind of caught on that this is a really good way to get people to do marketing for you. Giving it nicknames, driving up like interest in it, people will go like, what do you mean a Starbucks? And be like, well, allow me to show you this. It's a, you know, and it becomes, it becomes almost more common knowledge within watch communities, and the smaller communities learn about it. And have you heard about that? And Rolex have absolutely nailed it. They know exactly what they're doing to the point where I don't know if they're really, really clever and they've got really intelligent people working on it, or if they're really lucky.
Or both, actually. Probably both, to be frank. But I just really feel like we sort of don't, it's not like we have this duty of ours, no, but I feel like we should be bringing people's attention to people like, for example, Idris Elba, you know, who walks out with a brew watch on his wrist and everybody goes, he's got a bloody brew. And how cool is that? And that is genuinely cool that he goes, I've got a $500 watch and that's my big boy watch and it makes perfect sense.
Heck yeah. There was a football player that signed for a club recently and it was news headlines that he was wearing a 20 quid Casio. And I was like, good. He needs to know the time occasionally. Why would you go and spend £500,000 on something that does the same job as something that's £20 or £10 or whatever? And like he found what he needed to fulfill his purpose, and he did it for an appropriate cost. Good on him.
Yeah, well, that's fair enough in my eyes, to be honest.
Yeah.
And with that being
fair
said,
play to them.
Look at the time, because I think that was a pretty good rant that we gave in here. Yeah. Not a lot of conclusions, but I feel like this is one of those really big topics at which you should be coming back and coming back and coming back. And especially with new news emerging, we need to see where Rolex is going to take themselves, and we're going to be coming back to this sort of conversation.
Yeah.
Still
we'll
mad
do them
about
scripted.
Bukara. Really, really mad about it.
Yeah. It is what it is. C'est la vie.
So what do you think, guys, about the Rolexes? Do you like them? Do you hate them? Do you own one like my colleague right here does? Or do you think that you're never going to buy yourself one? Tell us in the comments, as we do it in Time Journal. Cheers.
Cheers.